Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Intuition 2016. My name is M.R. Rangaswamy, and I'm with the Sandhill Group. I'm privileged to be an advisor to Saama Technologies. What we do at Sandhill is we do some angel investing. We also have a website called sandhill.com, which you can go to find everything you need to know about business-to-business technologies. And I've been privileged to be here in the Valley for over 30 years. So we've seen waves and waves of technology come through. And I think this is probably the biggest one yet to come, is the whole area of big data. And I know many of you are from out of town, and some of you have driven up from Silicon Valley, and there are even some people from Japan attending this event. So welcome to all of you and to Intuition 2016. So as we get started, we have, I think, about 10 or 11 hours of programming. And being Indian, Tim, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Saama, and he happens to be German, kind of talks about the Indian stretchable time, right? So I promise that this morning when I'm emceeing this event, we'll keep the trains running on time, and maybe the Germans will be late for once this afternoon. So welcome once again. We have, like I said, 10 to 12 hours of programming. And just a quick backdrop on big data, right? We've seen this play over many, many years. It was called, I think in the old days, decision support, executive support, then it was called BI, analytics, and now it's big data. But each time, as we accumulate more and more digital data in our companies, the problem keeps getting more and more complex. And as technology gets cheaper, new technologies get adopted. You know, we seem to solve some of these problems, but we end up creating more problems. For example, now with big data, the whole IoT, introduction of IoT creates, petabytes and petabytes of data that we now need to, go through and analyze and try to get intuitions from. So to get started today, we have my good friend Suresh Katta, who is the CEO of Saama. I've known him for a long time. Suresh embodies the typical Silicon Valley entrepreneur, started a couple of companies, sold a couple of companies, and started Saama, I think, 18 years ago, right? When we didn't have anything called big data at that time. So he's really persevered in this space, built a company with 1,000 employees and hundreds of customers. And last year, he decided to grow this company even further. So he took, for the first time in his life, I guess in the company's life, outside capital to kind of fuel the growth and to enter new markets. And this is their brainchild is Intuition 2016, where I think over the next 12 hours, you'll hear all the updates on big data and what's going on both here and in different verticals across the sphere. So without further ado, welcome my good friend, Suresh Katta.
Here. Good morning. Okay, I get it. All right. How many of you are dressed up like this? I can't see you, so he looks funny, isn't it? That's what his wife thought. His wife was asking, why did you dress up that way? He said, I'm expecting some people to come and meet me, so I just want to be ready. Okay. She said, why this half pajamas? I don't know, they may not show up. So I just want to be comfortable with what I used to have yesterday or last night. Okay. As we are going through transformation in our industry today, over the last 6-7 years, what's happening is many large enterprises are dressed up like this. They have something of everything in there, not necessarily doing what really required. As this industry has evolved, you can see that MR talked about a little bit. We started this out in 18 years back. And our vision was clear at that time. We wanted to provide better insights from the data in a most optimal way. And so it was natural to dress up like this for a long time. Okay. And as we are getting to a stage right now, I would like to walk you through today my next 30-40 minutes talk, which will let you know how well we can dress up. Today's enterprises need to dress up for the market, need to be ready for the market. They cannot be dressed in 3 different ways while addressing the market. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming here. People, I know that many of our customers are here, and we have people from our partners are here, and people are here from California, people are here from outside the state, and also I know few people come from outside of the country, and like MR said, we also have people from Japan here. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate your support. On behalf of all Saamaites, I would like to express my gratitude for trusting us with your data and acknowledging our offerings. And consistently, you have encouraged us. And with that, we have today grown to about 900 plus employees among 7 offices worldwide. We are serving verticals like life sciences, healthcare, financial services, consumer product goods, and few others. And we are proud to be doing that. We also have about 415 customers. Like MR said earlier, we felt it was the right time for us. We were a self-funded company for the longest time. We had grown the company to about 600, 700 people before we decided to take money, and we added about 200 or 250 people last year. And we thought this opportunity is so big, we really need to take a much bigger look at it. So I want to thank our partner. He's here, Mark is here, who trusted in us and invested $35 million with us. Thank you, Mark. We are putting that money to good use. Before I go here, I just want to say one more thing. As time has evolved, one thing I would like to say that you have challenged us with some of your biggest problems you had. And that has given us an opportunity to take a leadership role in the marketplace. Over 18 years we have been in the business, but today I'm more excited than I have ever been as the opportunities continue to present itself in making an impact in this ever-changing world. I know that you all have made a big commitment of your time to be here for the day. With that, my colleagues have worked really hard to make sure that you have an opportunity to learn new things here, share new things as the day progresses. And thank you all again for coming. Let me go on to my first slide here. How many of you have been here for last year Keynote? Yeah, a few hands go up. You know, I talked about a little bit about, I don't know how many of you remember this. I talked about left brain, right brain. What that has to do with this. Yes, left brain, I said, left brain always says, I know who I am, exactly who I am. And for me, I compared that with business intelligence. Business intelligence was all about having the right data in the system so you can get a snapshot of what has happened. Then I talked about right brain. Right brain says, I'm everything I want to be. Its analytics is like that. It represents continuum. What's happening, what can happen next. That's what is all analytics about. So I talked about a little bit at that time, there is a need for us to build that bridge between business intelligence to analytics. Like earlier, MR pointed out how we have evolved, and same way I feel there's a clearly bridge to the analytics that has taken place over the last couple of years. And I spoke a little bit about that last year. You know what's happening in the industry today? I'm sure nobody is surprised looking at this picture. You see here, leading up to 2016, it's an eye chart. I don't expect any one of you to be able to read this one. What I can read out here is there's a lot happening in the marketplace. There's a lot of new companies that have appeared in the infrastructure side and the data sources side. Today morning, as you saw probably press announcement, IBM just paid $2+ billion for another healthcare data company today morning. So more data, and that is becoming more important. Then we have applications companies, we have cross-functional stuff, open source stuff, on and on. So I call them unreasonably aspirational entrepreneurs. Unreasonably aspirational entrepreneurs, connected with how many of the VCs here, if I say this word, hopefully a little bit of a smart but bit of greedy venture capitalists. Together created this chaotic environment. of this many companies. And we have a challenge figuring out, I'm sure that's the reason many organizations are dressed up in many different ways, because there's so much going on in the marketplace. Literally over 4,000 companies, last I counted, working on calling themselves as leaders in the big data today. I want to talk a little bit, some good that has come out already. As you know that we are on a 6th or 7th year bull run on big data. In this day and age, none of the things will stay for that long. And we have been, because this is able to sustain big data analytics, so we coined this term in 2009. Since then, now, 2016, we are still running on it. And we have not still solved all the problems we are trying to solve. I'm going to walk you through later a little bit about some of the examples. We have done tremendous amount of progress over 3-4 decades building transactional systems. Transactional systems matured and have grown and have become stable, and they are able to give us a lot of things, automating those things to make our lives easier. Basically, what we have done is taken out a lot of human tasks, simpler human tasks, and got them in the transactional system, so that we know that we are going to get shipped, or this is going to get released, or this is going to be paid, or this is going to be collected. That's what we got done. Then, with all the investments what we have made, transactional systems are kind of fading into the background today. Now, new systems are coming up. I call them cognitive systems. What are cognitive systems? Cognitive systems are really blurring the space between us and these systems. And cognitive systems are designed, architected totally differently than transactional systems were done. Cognitive is much more loosely coupled stuff now, cognitive systems. Cognitive systems use a set of technologies, works with machine learning systems, works with artificial intelligence systems, works with natural language processing stuff. And one other thing it does is it is able to get closer to human beings and able to enhance, magnify our cognitive capabilities. That's what it is doing, cognitive systems today. One more concept I would like to talk about here. I talked about transactional to cognitive system. By the way, I'm not saying by any chance here transactional systems are going away. No, I never said that. Please don't take that. So transactionals will continue to stay there. But in the front row, what you're going to get is cognitive systems. As we make through this one, there is another change that has happened. As we build business intelligence systems, but it was all about binding the data at the time of conceptualization. We needed to know what kind of things we want to get done in a data mart or a data warehouse. So we had to design the data mart, and everything binding data has to be binded at the time of conceptualization. There is a huge change that has come up with all these technologies. Now what are we able to do is we are able to bind the data at the time of consumption. It's a late binding. We are able to do late binding and able to do it on demand, the binding of the data. There's no need for us to spend quarters together or years together building a data mart or data warehouse anymore. And that's where we are heading out with the technologies of today. This leads to me talking about cognitive systems, and I talked about a little bit about time of consumption, and leads me to the 2016 theme, outcomes. I have traveled and met many of you around the country, and all the prospects, some of the partners, a bunch of them inside the US, outside the US. One thing I heard repeatedly is, hey, these are the business outcomes I'm looking for as the head of pharmaceutical company. As the head of the CPG company, this is what I'm looking for. And they were all talking about, these are the outcomes I'm trying to generate. How can you help me? They were not asking me to sell a predictive system. They were not asking me to sell a machine learning system. They were asking me, sell me the success. Because I get measured on how I succeed in my organization. Sell me that success. And what I'm going to talk about next few minutes is how and what we are doing in the industry, creating that outcomes, what our customers have been looking for. You know, as you see here, I'm forecasting that as we get into close to 20s, we are going to enter the era of outcomes. That's where we are heading out. Let me start on my left side. When I started my career, this was in mid-80s, hardware was in the middle of the table. And when we thought about computers, they were in the middle of the table, and computers were hardware. As I moved into 90s, what I saw was middle of the table, software guys were sitting. This was no longer hardware guys were sitting on the side. Then as we moved to year 2000, we saw services, web providers were moving into the center of the table. And as you saw, 2009 and 10 to now data has been ruling the world. One thing I would like to say is when I started my career here, we had maybe a couple of million people access to technology. As we got to year 2000, we got to something like 500 million people had access to technology. And if you fast forward another 15 years to 2015, we have 3.4 billion people having access to technology today. One of the biggest things we have been able to achieve is we do not discriminate anymore based on the English speaking or not. Technology is not discriminating them. We are not discriminating them because they are educated or not. We are not discriminating them because they are wealthy or not. That's the reason we have been able to move from 500 million to 3.4 billion people. And it's expected that by the time we enter the era of outcomes, close to 4.5 to 5 billion people will have access to technology. Where am I going with this? Point I wanted to make is, as we got this many people, whether they're English speaking or not, they're college educated or not, whether they have $2 of income per day or not, they're contributing to our world with the data. And all that data is playing a huge role in what we are doing in the world today. One more thing I'll say, as we went through this evolution, you see one major other reason it went was flexibility, scalability, affordability, time to market dramatically changed. And those are the drivers, same drivers pushed us from hardware to software to web to data, and today going up to the era of outcomes. This is the kind of evolution, my thinking of how we have evolved over the last 3 decades. Now I would like to spend a little bit time on this outcomes as I started out talking about this. How these cognitive systems I talked about, and also I talked about at the time of consumption, binding the data. I want to walk you through the examples of that and how it's impacting our personal lives and in our local communities, in our professional life, in our enterprise, in the industries which are not quite connected with data until recently, and in life, how we are treating the patients. And also finally, I'll talk about how one organization is trying to change the world with the big data. Redefining the personal lives. You know, it's not long ago, I was stuck in Los Angeles airport with my wife. Weather was choppy. Flights were delayed. And they said delayed, and again delayed. Before I knew, 6 or 7 hours went by. I was getting tired. I said, let's go and rent a car and drive back, because Monday morning I had an important meeting, and Sunday evening, still I was in Los Angeles airport. As I started driving, rented the car and turned on my device, I got depressed. It told me there's 10 hours to go. From Los Angeles to San Francisco, no, it doesn't take 10 hours. That's what my system told me. Then I found out there are many smarter people than me who are already on the road ahead of me. Magic started happening. Someone was binding the data behind the scene. And within few minutes, it told me, if you take this service road, you're going to save 45 minutes. Whoa, I took it. My wife was okay until that time. Then it told me after 30 minutes, if you take this exit, you'll save another 20 minutes. I said, wow, I cut off 1 hour now. I'm down to 9 hours to get. To make long story short, it had a profound impact on me, how this system helped me. And I reached home safely in less than 6 hours. And next day morning, I read in the paper, there were 3 fatal accidents in the path which I was driving. In spite of that, I was able to get to where I want. It had a huge impact for me in my personal life. And nobody had to build a data mart, a data warehouse, and reporting tool on top of it. I want to talk about communities. As you know, world population is increasing. And we are expected to have a forward push towards urbanization in the world. What do I mean by that? 70% of the world population is going to live in cities. We are going to have over 50 cities with 10 million or more people. We're going to have 50 megacities, 50 plus megacities. 100 plus megacities. That is having more than 5 million people. How do you serve communities as diverse as that? And how do you serve today? Forget about next 25 years. Forget about what's happening in each one of our communities. How do you serve these communities for next 3 months, next 6 months, next year from now, 18 months from now? What the changes are going to be in this community? And how do we serve? We had the privilege to work with one of the largest consumer products goods company. And we were able to connect culture, socio-economic conditions, overlaid with education, immigration, ethnicity, bunch of things, and come up with a bunch of answers. Of course, I'm here addressing, when I'm talking about communities, it's all about what the community, goods that community needs. There are many, many different dimensions that I'm just focusing on this, on the goods they need. So this organization operates in over 150 cities today. And they are covering about 1,000 cities. This is not a distant problem they are trying to solve. This is the problem they're solving every day today. And what we are able to do is able to get the signals from the data. Data is able to tell us what kind of products can be sold, what kind of products are required for this local community, at what price, in what quantity, and what time of the year. And you know that people who are familiar in Silicon Valley, East Palo Alto and West, other side of the Palo Alto. There are 2 different communities. You cannot serve the same goods in both sides of the 101. Who has that intelligence? And when the communities are growing, how do you draw the line between where we are versus where the next thing happening? So this what is big data and machine learning and some of the other pieces I talked about are helping to do today. It's not about what has happened, what's happening, what can happen next. Professional life. I know that many of you are here who met each other for the first time, or you met again. You will be exchanging your information, and some of you, I do that quite a bit. Some of you saying that, hey, let's get together for coffee, or let's get together for something else, dinner, whatever it is. We spend millions of hours, professional productivity time, in trying to set up appointments. Now there is a technology. I talked about all those 4,000 chaotic environment we have created. Out of some good is coming out. You can see that there is a bots, professional bots are available. What does it do? It reads my inbox. Understood, I'm trying to have a lunch with so-and-so. And it connects with my calendar and other tools in my system, and then reaches out to the other person. And sets up the magic happens, sets up an appointment for me. These are some of the lower level cognitive things what we do and waste a lot of hours. And these new cognitive systems I'm talking about is taking away that kind of tasks, what we used to do. Enterprise. There are many examples I can give you on the enterprise. This is one of my favorite ones. I feel any enterprise, their biggest asset is their talent. Talent rules the company. Right kind of talent, if you have, company can go anywhere you want. Enterprise. Most of the time when we have a job openings, we outsource that requirement to the human recruiter in the human resources department, saying that, can you get me some resumes? And our job descriptions are minimal. Let's say we have a great job description. Then a recruiter spends a lot of time trying to source the candidates who would match that. That work is a lot of lower level cognitive stuff. Matching your job requirements with all the resumes he finds on the internet or somewhere else, portals, whatever it is. Today we have services available. As you see in this picture, I can put a project manager in the Los Angeles area, and I can supply the keywords I want, and it comes back with all the candidates available in the marketplace who would perfectly fit for this. And they may not be looking for a job, but this is smart device. You also don't want to hire only people who are looking for a job. You want to hire people who are not even looking for a job. That's what this system does. So what happened behind the scene? Like I gave an example of driving back from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Same way here, this tool, I talked about cognitive systems. It had a natural language processing, artificial intelligence, all the machine learning pieces, combined with the ability to compute at the time of consumption. And it comes back with all the possible candidates for you, best candidates possible for you. That's what is happening from the enterprise. I can walk you through so many of these examples, how the enterprises are getting redefined. This is a good one I felt to share with you, because all of us have the same industry. I'd like to talk about my favorite one. I happen to be born and brought up in a sleepy farming town in India. And when I was going to school, I used to have friends who come from farming background. They used to talk about how their land was fertile versus other guys' land was not fertile. And they were separated only by a mile or two. Always mind-boggling for me, how come each one of them, they said, we cannot grow this crop here, whereas he can grow the crop there. And now I find out after 30, 40 years since my school days, the problem still existed until big data came in, until cognitive systems came in. And as you know, that we have done a tremendous amount of progress in the agricultural industry. Through the Industrial Revolution, we have been able to get something like we had 36, at the peak, 36% of the employment of US was related to agriculture. Today, we have less than 3% of the employment related to agriculture. No question, we have made a tremendous amount of progress. But for last decade or two, as the technology took off, I talked about transactional systems, other pieces, farmers were left out. They never participated in this journey. And today, we have something like 95 million acres of corn we grow in the country today. And we grow over 80 million acres of soybean alone. And the farmers are struggling to get why I don't get the same yield I'm getting on this acre versus that acre. And it's an ongoing struggle for them. So with the big data, what it has been able to do is we are able to have sensors able to tell every square meter of land. We are able to get exactly soil conditions and how it reacts to the type of pesticides, how it reacts to type of fertilizers, how it reacts to amount of water it gets, bunch of things. Based on that, now farmers are able to divide the field into regions and blocks and able to bring it down to where to bring in a specific type of seeds which would have a better yield on that land. I don't know how many, at least when got connected with some people in this industry, I was fascinated how this big data is defining the farming. And probably some of you know that Monsanto just recently announced they're putting in, they're the biggest, one of the biggest seed company. They are putting in $1 billion investment to develop the big data and cognitive systems around this. They want to go into the business of cloud-based services, data services for all the farmers in the country. That's what they want to be doing. They said, we will not be in the business of seed, but we will be in the business of selling the insights to the farmers across the country. That's how cognitive systems are redefining the industries. Redefining life. How many of you heard about real-world evidence here? See some hands go up. Real-world evidence is finding an optimal therapy regimen for patients with chronic diseases. We have made a lot of progress over the last several decades in discovering new drugs, going through a very tedious process of FDA approvals, all that. Then in spite of all that stuff, the drugs doesn't tell me medicine that is applicable to the right type of patients. With the big data, what's happening now today is with all sorts of data aggregation we have been able to do, we have been able to come to as close as it can get to evidence-based individualized medicine. Now, large pharmaceutical companies are all going after this because they have spent billions of dollars getting the drug approved. Now it's for them to figure out really how to price is a different thing, but how to find the right kind of patients would match this. Real-world evidence data sets are able to illuminate what is the most optimal therapy that can be applied to a particular patient. And it's able to, real-world evidence able to give us what is going to work for the patient, what's not going to work for the patient, what kind of therapy can be tried, how long before we can switch it. So this is a real-time happening in the industry. This is an emerging side of what happening in the pharmaceutical industry. I consider this is a bridge before we come up with a real personalized medicine. And we are not close to that yet. Before we really get to that kind of revolution, I think this is an evidence-based, individualized medicine. We are going to make a lot of progress. We happen to be working with a bunch of large pharmaceutical companies. We take pride in doing this work with our partners. They want to generate the outcomes. That's what they were looking for. This is one of my favorite charity here. I'm sure many of you commend what Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is doing. And many of you probably know that, think that they have a lot of money. But what they have tasked themselves to do in this world, no money is enough. In a developing world, they're struggling to figure out really what needs to be done with every dollar they spend. Not how do they spend the dollar, what is the most impact I can create with the dollar? So they have choices to make. Foundation has choices to make. Should I treat the child? Should I educate the mother? Should I purify the water nearby? Or should I be funding the organization which is able to come up with the next generation medicine there? I can go on giving the list of things. Even if they're spending $7 billion a year, that's really peanuts. And how is it helping here? They're able to aggregate the data from as it is happening in the developing countries, and able to come up with figuring out exactly how the dollar need to be spent so to have a maximum impact. By the way, I just want to say that last year, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation picked Saama to be their analytics partner, and we are very proud to be doing the work they are doing and participating in that work. I talked about a little bit outcomes here, from personal to how it had an impact. If you look at the title of my speech today, it was the in-the-moment analytics. So this is what I'm talking about. I talked about cognitive systems. I talked about time of consumption binding the data. And I talked about a bunch of things. If you see here, I had a profound impact on my experience of driving back home, because these systems were able to give me what I wanted, enhance my experience. And we are able to serve the communities in the moment. It's all in the moment, having the right kind of products for them to consume, goods to consume in the local communities. And we have been able to do that. And you saw a smaller example, I talked about professional life. Then I talked about enterprise. And I talked about in the industry like agriculture, every season crop is very important for the farmer. And in the moment, what they decide about the type of seeds they need to use and the type of pesticides they need to use varies. And it decides for the entire season for them what the outcome is going to be. Same way, life I talked about, people with chronic diseases, we know that there's a connection between lifespan of a patient and quality of life and different kind of therapy they need to go through during that time. And big data is having an impact in enhancing that life when they're going through this chronic diseases. And finally, foundations like Gates are able to change the world using the big data. And this all I talked about is around the cognitive systems and consumption and the outcomes. How does all this happen? This is the only technical slide I have. I thought I was very tempted. My colleagues told me, no, don't show this. But I told them, no, I would like to show this. I want you to understand data lakes are infinite. They're all over the place. It's virtual. And all types of data is there. That's where these new systems, cognitive systems are able to, this is the way cognitive systems are defined. Then from there, if you go up one level, all of us who grew up in the database era, you know that we could only join things which are alphanumeric. Otherwise, we couldn't join. Only in our head, in our brain, we could join. Now, with this, anything, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's a data type, all the unjoinable, we can join in the system now. And you move up a little bit, it was data elements or data fields, what we used to have in the database. Think about multifaceted, multidimensional data elements. And this is a next level of abstraction of that stuff. It not only tells me who Suresh Katta is, but it can give me 8 different attributes associated with me. And this is built dynamically at the time of consumption. That's what the cognitive systems are able to do. This is what we are heading out over next few years. What is that we are doing at Saama? I would like to talk about Saama Fluid Analytics Engine. You must be wondering, what was that fluid about video? Did you guys like the video? Thank you. So we felt life is so fluid, and everything that's happening is fluid. You got to have systems who are fluid enough to deliver the outcomes you're looking for. We spent over the last 6-7 years building this system. We built it first, we scratched it because we didn't think it was working. Probably you heard about it, or you saw some of that stuff. Then we rebuilt it, we scratched it again. We felt it was not right. Then third generation, we got it really right. And now with that, we are able to provide you some of the examples I went through so far. And all of that was delivered through this kind of fluid analytics engine. I keep getting this question, what is this fluid analytics engine? Many of you customers probably never heard about our fluid analytics engine because you only heard about the solutions, what you are looking for, outcomes you are looking for. That's what you get measured on. And you don't care what I'm using behind the scene. I clearly get it. Then I drew the last picture, right, about data lakes and unjoinables. All that magic, analytic elements, all that magic is happening below that, below our engine. We are able to create that dynamically. That's what the magic is happening. Because of that, we are able to deliver to our clients today in few weeks, not few quarters or few years. We are able to deliver what we are delivering in the moment analytics. And it's about what's happening, what can happen. That's what we are able to bring out. We did a bit of studies on this. What is the impact of this for our customers? And we came up with all the speed at which we are able to deliver and the kind of technologies we are able to shrink it, sandwich into nothing or almost invisible, and the process, changes to the process. All these pieces, we felt that there has been a 7x impact on the business outcomes. And again, I'm talking about how we are enabling the intuition with speed and specificity. Outcomes are all about specific problem you have as a business unit, and that is very specific to you. How can we solve that problem? That's why I feel transactional systems were not specific to you, but it was specific to the industry. Whereas now we have come to talk about specific to your business, specific to your function, specific to your role, what you are trying to deliver. I want to talk about the second S curve, what you see here. What has happened is all the examples I walk you through about the outcomes, this is a creation of new markets. We are redefining. What redefining means, the old way of doing things are going away. They are getting minimized. And it's an inflection point that is we are going through in the marketplace. And all the organizations I gave examples, they are in this second S curve. They are moving up this second S curve. This is how we are going to head out to era of outcomes. With that piece, I would like to take a little pause here. I talked about outcomes and how we measured 7X, all that stuff. Then internally, my colleague said, Suresh, it's very easy for us to claim whatever number we want to claim. Let's get someone else in the marketplace, respected research analysts, do a study on this. We have Boris here, am I right, somewhere? Yeah, thank you, Boris. Boris, we asked Forrester to spend time with us, also spend time with our clients, and come up and publish a total economic impact study. What is the total economic impact because of the systems we are able to deliver to our clients? And a little later today, Boris is going to speak about this, and as well as we are going to publish. They have come up with a 25-page report, I think, if I'm not wrong. Am I right? Okay, 25-page report. All of you who have registered for this conference will get a copy of this, and they'll go through the examples of what they saw and how the industry is moving and where we are heading out. So we are certainly moving from the system of records to system of insights. That's where we are heading.